Commander Vex'thorial sat in the War Council chamber, watching the holographic display flicker with reports from 1,000 conquered worlds. His 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a nervous habit he'd developed over his 400 years of military service. "The humans," he muttered, mandibles clicking with what his species considered amusement. "Finally we get to crush the humans." The Galactic Coalition had maintained peace for a millennium, 1,000 boring, tedious, profit-driven years where species traded, negotiated, and Vex'thorial shuddered, compromised. But humanity, oh humanity had been the worst of them all. Charming, diplomatic, absurdly friendly. They'd wormed their way into every trade agreement, every cultural exchange, every tedious peace summit with their insufferable smiles and handshakes. Admiral, his second-in-command, Officer Krixna, approached with a data tablet clutched in her 6-fingered grip. "The declaration of war has been transmitted to Earth. Their government should receive it within the hour." Vex'thorial's mouthparts twisted into what passed for a grin among the Zenthari species. "Excellent. And our fleet, assembled at Rally Point Omega, 3,000 warships. Enough firepower to glass a dozen planets." Krixna paused, her skin shifting from confident purple to uncertain blue. "Sir, are we certain this is wise? The humans have been peaceful for—" "Peaceful?" Vex'thorial interrupted, slamming his lower appendage against the command console. "They've been lazy, complacent, soft. Intelligence reports show they've converted 70% of their military shipyards into civilian manufacturing. Their famous Earth defense fleet, half of it is on museum duty, for the love of the cosmic void." He pulled up images on the holographic display. Human soldiers in dress uniforms, smiling at cameras. Human warships conducting rescue operations. Human generals shaking hands with alien dignitaries. "Look at them," Vex'thorial continued, his voice dripping with contempt. "They've forgotten what they were. 1,000 years ago, they were warriors. Fighters. Now they make movies about their old battles and sell popcorn in their decommissioned carriers." Krixna's skin flickered to nervous yellow. "But sir, the historical records, our ancient history." Vex'thorial cut her off again. "The Coalition kept peace because everyone was afraid of everyone else. But we've been watching, waiting, preparing. The Zenthari Empire will not be bound by outdated treaties anymore, and will start by making an example of the weakest link, humanity." The holographic display chimed and Krixna's eyes widened. "Sir, we're receiving a response from Earth already." "Already?" Vex'thorial's confidence wavered for just a moment. The transmission had only been sent 20 minutes ago. "Well, put it through. Let's hear them beg." The display shifted, showing a human, male probably in his 60s by human standards, with gray hair and wearing what appeared to be a casual shirt with coffee stains on it. He was sitting in what looked like an ordinary office, not a military command center. "Ah, hello?" the human said, squinting at the camera. "Is this thing on? Yeah. Okay, good. This is Martin Reeves, Deputy Assistant to the Secretary of Defense. I was just heading out for lunch when someone forwarded me your declaration of war." Vex'thorial's 3 eyes blinked in asynchronous confusion. "Deputy, Assistant, where is your military command? Your president? Your defense ministers?" Martin scratched his head. "Oh well, President Walker is at her daughter's wedding in Chicago. Secretary Gomez is on vacation in Hawaii. They said I could handle this since it's probably just a prank or something." He paused, reading something off screen. "Wait, you guys are serious? You're actually declaring war?" "Yes." Vex'thorial roared, his skin flushing deep red. "The Zenthari Empire, backed by the Coalition of 12, formally declares war on humanity. You have violated Treaty Section 739, subsection—" Yeah, I'm sure it's all very official," Martin interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. "Look, buddy, I'm going to level with you. This is adorable. Really. We haven't had anyone declare war on us in so long that I literally had to search the archives for the proper response protocol. Found it filed under historical curiosities, right next to instructions for operating a fax machine." Vex'thorial felt his blood pressure rising. "You dare mock the Zenthari Empire?" "Mock? No, I'm not mocking. I'm just—" Martin paused, and Vex'thorial saw something shift in the human's eyes, something that made his primary combat instinct trigger a warning. "I'm just trying to save you from making a really stupid mistake. We have 3,000 warships," Vex'thorial bellowed. Your defense fleet is scattered across 100 systems, most of them unarmed civilian vessels. Your military production has been dormant for centuries. You are weak. Martin sighed, setting down what appeared to be a sandwich. Okay, let me tell you a little story. To see, there was this reason why the galactic peace lasted 1,000 years, and it wasn't because everyone suddenly became enlightened. It was because 1,000 years ago, humanity showed the galaxy exactly what happens when you start a war you can't finish. Ancient history. Vex'thorial spat. Your warriors are dead. Your weapons are obsolete. Our patience ran out, Martin said, his voice suddenly devoid of all humor. That's what happened. See, we spent the last millennium being friendly, diplomatic, helpful. We built hospitals on your worlds, traded technology, shared culture. We did all of that because we wanted peace, not because we needed it. Vex'thorial felt a chill run through his exoskeleton, but he forced himself to continue. Your threats are empty. We've analyzed your capabilities. Your famous human ingenuity is nothing but propaganda. You are soft. Soft, Martin repeated, his laugh cold and sharp. Yeah, we are soft. You know what else is soft? A sleeping bear, soft, cuddly, safe to be around. Right up until you poke it with a stick. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. You're about to poke the bear, Commander Vex'thorial. How did you? Vex'thorial started, surprised the human knew his name. How did I know your name? Your rank? Your service history? The exact composition of your fleet at Rally Point Omega? Martin smiled, and it wasn't friendly. Because while you were watching us convert our military shipyards into civilian production, we were installing the most advanced intelligence network in galactic history. While you were celebrating our weakness, we were building things you can't even imagine. And while you were planning this war, we were waiting to see if anyone was stupid enough to actually start one. Krixna's skin had gone pure white, the Zenthari color of absolute terror. Sir, perhaps we should reconsider. Silence, Vex'thorial commanded, though his own confidence was cracking. This is a bluff, a desperate attempt to avoid the inevitable. Our fleet launches in 6 hours, and there is nothing you can do to stop us. Martin stood up from his desk, straightening his stained shirt. 6 hours. Okay, that gives me just enough time to finish my lunch, call back the president from her daughter's wedding, and activate Protocol Sleeping Giant. He paused at the door of his office. Oh, and Commander, one more thing. What? Vex'thorial demanded. When this is over, when your fleet is debris and your empire is begging for mercy, I want you to remember that we gave you a choice. We offered you peace. You chose war. That's on you. The transmission ended. The War Council chamber fell silent, except for the hum of the holographic displays. Vex'thorial stared at the blank screen, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly. Sir? Krixna whispered, her voice trembling. What was Protocol Sleeping Giant? I don't know, Vex'thorial admitted. It's probably nothing. Another bluff. Empty human bravado. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. Across the galaxy, on 12 different worlds, Coalition species received the same message, the same calm, professional notification that humanity had received a declaration of war and was responding accordingly. Most dismissed it. Some laughed. A few, the older ones who remembered the before times, went very quiet and began evacuating their families from border systems. On Earth, in a bunker that officially didn't exist, President Julia Walker arrived via emergency transport, still wearing her daughter's wedding dress. Secretary of Defense Maria Gomez materialized moments later, sand still on her sandals from the Hawaiian beach. Martin, President Walker said, her voice ice cold despite the festive dress. Please tell me this is a joke. Martin Reeves, Deputy Assistant to the Secretary of Defense, handed her a tablet. I wish it was, ma'am. The Zenthari Empire, backed by the Coalition of 12, formally declared war 37 minutes ago. After 1,000 years of peace, Gomez muttered, scrolling through the declaration. After everything we built together, they actually did it. President Walker read the document, her jaw tightening with each paragraph. When she finished, she looked up at the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who had assembled in record time. General Park, she said quietly. How long to activate the reserve fleet? General James Park, a man who had spent his entire career managing what amounted to the galaxy's most expensive museum, smiled grimly. The ships never stopped being operational, Madam President. We've just been very good at pretending they were retired. Activation time, 45 minutes. Admiral Torres. The shipyards. Admiral Sofia Torres pulled up a holographic display. Civilian production facilities can be converted to military manufacturing in approximately 2 hours. We've been running monthly drills disguised as maintenance exercises for the past century. The workers think it's just procedure. They're about to find out why we were so insistent on those drills. Director Kim, Intelligence Assets. Director Michael Kim's smile was predatory. We have listening posts in every coalition system, including Zenthari space. We've known about this war plan for 3 months. We know their fleet composition, their attack vectors, their supply lines, and the personal comm codes of every ship captain. President Walker nodded slowly. And Protocol Sleeping Giant. The room fell silent. Every person present knew what that protocol meant, what it would unleash, what it would cost. Madam President, General Park said carefully. Are you certain? Once we activate Sleeping Giant, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. They declared war on us, James, Walker replied, her voice hard. They made their choice. They poked the bear. Now they get to find out why we spent 1,000 years being friendly. She took a deep breath. Activate Protocol Sleeping Giant. All phases. Full deployment. Yes, ma'am, General Park said, entering his authorization codes. Across human space. In shipyards that had supposedly been converted to peaceful purposes, massive doors began to open. Ships that had been classified as decommissioned powered up their reactors. Weapons systems that had been labeled museum pieces came online with terrifying efficiency. And in the darkness between stars, in places no alien sensor had ever detected, massive structures began to wake up. The sleeping giants, humanity's insurance policy. The reason they'd agreed to peace in the first place. Not because they needed it, but because everyone else did. Vex'thorial would understand that soon enough, they all would. The 1,000-year peace was over. And the galaxy was about to remember why it had started. 6 hours later, Commander Vex'thorial stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching his fleet prepare for the jump to human space. 3,000 warships, the largest military force assembled in 5 centuries, hung in perfect formation against the backdrop of distant stars. All vessels report ready, Commander. Krixna announced, though her skin remained that sickly white color. She hadn't changed back to normal since the transmission from Earth. Excellent, Vex'thorial said, forcing confidence into his voice. Helm, prepare to initiate jump sequence. Weapons. I want all batteries charged the moment we exit hyperspace. Communications, prepare the surrender demand for broadcast. Sir. The communications officer, a young Zenthari named Pulmix, hesitated. We've been receiving unusual signals from human space. Massive energy spikes. Reactor signatures that don't match any known civilian vessels. Obviously their pathetic defense fleet scrambling into position. Vex'thorial dismissed. Let them scramble. It will make their defeat all the more entertaining. Execute jump. The fleet entered hyperspace in a coordinated wave, 3,000 ships tearing through the fabric of reality toward humanity's core systems. The journey would take 17 minutes. Vex'thorial spent them reviewing the battle plan, imagining his triumphant return, picturing the Zenthari Empire's dominance over the galaxy. He did not spend them wondering why Krixna looked like she might vomit, or why half his bridge crew seemed to be praying to their various deities, or why the ship's intelligence officer kept pulling up old historical files about human military operations. 15 minutes into the jump, his tactical officer Brenzak cleared his throat nervously. Commander, I've been reviewing those historical records and I think we should focus on our current operation. Vex'thorial snapped. I don't care what humans did a millennium ago. I care about what they can't do now. But sir, the Battle of Proxima 7, the Siege of New Kyoto, the decades, our history. Vex'thorial roared. We are making new history. Now silence yourself before I have you removed from the bridge. Brenzak fell silent, his skin color matching Krixna's fearful white. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, emerging at the edge of the Sol system, humanity's home territory. Vex'thorial's 3 eyes fixed on the view screen, ready to see the panicked scrambling of inferior human vessels. What he saw instead made his blood run cold. Ships. Hundreds of ships. No, thousands of ships. Tens of thousands of ships. They hung in space like a wall of metal and fury, stretching across the system in perfect military formation. But these weren't the museum pieces intelligence had reported. These were warships, real warships, massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed his own flagship, sleek destroyers that bristled with weapon ports, carrier groups that launched fighter craft by the thousands. That's impossible, Vex'thorial whispered. Our intelligence said they only had a few hundred active military vessels. Sir, Polnix's voice cracked with terror. I'm reading over 50,000 contacts, and they're still coming. Gates are opening throughout the system, more ships arriving every second. Where did they come from? Vex'thorial demanded. Krixna pulled up sensor data with shaking appendages. The shipyards, sir. The ones we thought were civilian production facilities. They were camouflage. Those factories were building warships the entire time, and they decommissioned vessels we detected. They were never actually offline. They were hibernating, waiting. A transmission request lit up the communications panel. Vex'thorial stared at it like it was a venomous creature. Answer it, he finally croaked. The view screen shifted to show Martin Reeves again, but he'd changed clothes. Now he wore a military uniform, medals covering one entire side of his chest. Behind him stood President Walker, no longer in a wedding dress but in a command uniform that looked like it had seen actual combat. Commander Vex'thorial, Martin said, his voice pleasant. Welcome to Sol System. I see you brought friends. That's good. We brought friends too. This is a trick, Vex'thorial snarled. Holographic projections. Our sensors would have detected this buildup. Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted you to detect. President Walker stepped forward. See, Commander. Humanity learned something important 1,000 years ago. We learned that the galaxy is full of species who view kindness as weakness, who mistake patience for inability, who confuse peace with cowardice. So we made a deal with ourselves. Martin continued. We would be peaceful. We would be friendly. We would build hospitals and share technology and become everyone's favorite neighbors. But we would never ever be unprepared for the day someone decided to test us. Admiral Torres appeared on screen, her smile sharp as a blade. Those civilian shipyards, triple-purpose facilities, manufacturing consumer goods on the surface, building warships underneath, training combat crews disguised as factory workers. Those museum ships, fully operational military vessels in deep hibernation, maintained to perfection, ready to activate on 6 hours' notice. And those friendship treaties we signed with all those grateful species. Director Kim added, embedded intelligence networks that make your coalition spy services look like children playing with tin cans and string. We've known about your war plans since before you finalized them. Vex'thorial felt his primary heart hammering against his chest cavity. You've been planning this. You've been preparing for war while preaching peace. You're no better than you. President Walker interrupted, her voice hard. No, Commander, we're exactly like you. We're a species that understands violence, that's good at war, that can turn entire systems into graveyards when we choose to. The difference is we choose not to. We spent 1,000 years building instead of destroying, healing instead of conquering, creating instead of taking. We did all that hoping we'd never have to show the galaxy our teeth again. She leaned forward. You made us show our teeth. The sensor displays suddenly screamed warnings. Vex'thorial's tactical officer's voice rose to a panicked shriek. Commander, new contacts, massive energy signatures. Coming from, oh by the void. They're coming from everywhere. The view screen shifted to show space itself seeming to tear open. Enormous structures materialized from nowhere, shimmering into existence as stealth fields dropped. Weapons platforms the size of moons, orbital defense stations that looked like they could crack planets, and ships, ancient ships, massive beyond reason, covered in armor that predated modern metallurgy, bristling with weapons that intelligence had assured him were impossible to manufacture anymore. The sleeping giants, Brenzak whispered, his voice full of religious awe. The legends were true. They kept them all. What are those? Vex'thorial demanded, though part of him didn't want to know. Those, Martin said quietly, are the ships we used to end the last galactic war, the Titan-class dreadnoughts, Project Ragnarok. We told everyone we'd dismantled them as a gesture of peace. We lied. We hid them instead. In dark space, in stealth orbits, in pocket dimensions, just in case. President Walker's expression was sad but resolute. We really hoped we'd never need them again. We hoped the galaxy had learned. We hoped 1,000 years of peace meant something. You have one chance, Commander, Martin said. Turn your fleet around, go home. Tell your empire and your coalition that humanity is still willing to be peaceful. But if you fire a single shot, if you harm a single human vessel, then Protocol's sleeping giant moves to Phase 2. What's Phase 2? Vex'thorial heard himself ask. Phase 2 is where we stop playing defense. Admiral Torres answered. Phase 2 is where we demonstrate that every weapons system we shared with the galaxy for civilian research. We kept the military versions. Phase 2 is where we activate the kill codes embedded in every ship using human-designed reactor technology, which is 93% of the Coalition's fleet, including yours. Vex'thorial's three eyes widened in horror. You wouldn't, that's a war crime. So is declaring war without provocation, President Walker replied. So is attacking a peaceful species. So is breaking a 1,000-year peace treaty because you thought we'd forgotten how to fight. You want to talk about war crimes? We can talk about war crimes. Right after you explain to your people why you led them into a war they cannot possibly win. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion fell absolutely silent. Vex'thorial looked at his fleet on the tactical display. 3,000 ships that had seemed so powerful 6 hours ago. Now they looked like toys compared to the human armada. I have my orders, Vex'thorial said weakly. The Coalition is currently receiving similar demonstrations in their home systems. Director Kim interrupted. Funny thing about declaring war on humanity. We're everywhere. We've been everywhere for centuries. Those friendly diplomats, intelligence officers, those helpful engineers, military analysts, those charming exchange students, special forces operators. We've been living in your cities, working in your governments, sleeping in rooms next to your children, and we never ever forgot our real purpose. Which was what? Vex'thorial whispered. To make sure that if anyone ever started a war again, President Walker said softly, we could end it, quickly, decisively, and with minimal loss of life. Even your lives, Commander. A new transmission cut in. Emergency priority. Vex'thorial recognized the signature. High Command, the Zenthari Empire's military leadership. All fleet commanders stand down immediately. Repeat, stand down. The Coalition is calling emergency peace talks. Do not engage human forces. This is a direct order from Vex'thorial closed the transmission, staring at the human faces on his view screen. You planned this entire thing. From the beginning, the 1,000 years of peace, the friendship treaties, the technology sharing, all of it was preparation for this moment. No, President Walker said, and Vex'thorial was surprised to see genuine emotion in her eyes. All of it was genuine. We wanted peace. We wanted friendship. We wanted to build a galaxy where war was just a historical footnote. But we're not naive. We knew someday, someone would forget, would get greedy, would mistake our kindness for weakness. So yes, Martin added, we prepared. We built insurance policies. We kept our teeth sharp even while we smiled. Because hope is beautiful, Commander, but hope without preparation is just wishful thinking. Admiral Torres pulled up a tactical display. Your fleet is surrounded, outgunned, outmaneuvered, out-everythinged. We have weapons targeting every single one of your ships. We could turn your armada into debris in approximately 4 minutes. But we don't want to. We want you to go home. We want you to tell everyone what you saw here. We want the galaxy to understand that humanity is still friendly, still peaceful, still willing to build instead of destroy. But only, President Walker emphasized, if that friendship is respected, only if that peace is mutual, only if the galaxy understands that we're peaceful by choice, not by necessity. She stood up, her posture military perfect. So what's it going to be, Commander? Do you want to be remembered as the fool who started and lost a war in the same day? Or do you want to be remembered as the wise leader who recognized the truth and chose life over pointless death? Vex'thorial looked at his crew, at Krixna who had tried to warn him, at Brenzak, who had tried to show him the historical records, at young Polmix, who was probably composing his last message to his family. He thought about his 400 years of service, his dreams of glory, his certainty that humanity was weak. He'd been so wrong, so catastrophically, completely wrong. Helm, Vex'thorial said quietly. Prepare the fleet for hyperspace jump. We're going home. Sir, the helmsman couldn't hide his relief. All ships, stand down weapons. Navigation, plot a course back to Zenthari space. Communications, send our surrender to High Command and to President Walker. He looked back at the view screen, at the human leaders who had just demonstrated exactly why peace had lasted 1,000 years. I was wrong. We were all wrong. I'm sorry. President Walker's expression softened slightly. We accept your surrender, Commander. Return to your people. Tell them what you learned here. And maybe, just maybe, we can go back to being friends instead of enemies. The transmission ended. The human fleet remained in position, weapons still charged, but not firing, allowing Vex'thorial's armada to retreat with their lives and their ships intact. As the Zenthari fleet began their jump sequence, Krixna approached her commander. Sir, what will you tell High Command? The Empire, the Coalition. Vex'thorial watched the human vessels on his view screen, thinking about a species that had built an empire of friendship while keeping weapons of unimaginable power hidden in the dark just in case. A species that had been kind for 1,000 years but had never ever forgotten how to be dangerous. I'll tell them the truth, he said finally. That we poked the bear, that the bear showed us its claws, and that we're very, very lucky the bear still believes in mercy. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Sol system behind. And humanity once again put away its teeth and went back to smiling at the galaxy. But everyone would remember. Everyone would know. The 1,000-year peace would continue. Because now, finally everyone understood exactly why it had lasted so long in the first place. The bear was sleeping again, and the galaxy had just learned not to poke it.